On behalf of our family living in Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan, Georgia. I'm surprised there's not a little hooting and hollering after this. Okay. Maryland, Florida, and the greatest of these, Indiana. We thank you for coming today to celebrate the life and ministry of my dad, Pastor Phil Mortensen, and to support his dear wife, Norma, a gift to my dad. At this time, I'm going to ask my dad's ministry partner, his hand-selected ministry partner, Pastor Wallace Butts, to come and just to welcome the Lord's presence in this place. And then, of course, if you knew my dad at all, number one, we wouldn't have started at 3 o'clock. So if there's people still coming in, we understand. He probably would still be walking in too. But we're going to have a time of worship together, just to show what God can do in and through his people. So with that, I'm going to ask my dad's ministry partner, Pastor Wallace Butts of Love Church Ministries, to come and just to welcome the Lord here in this place and to be with us in our time together. Pastor Wallace.
Thank you, Michael. Well, we do want to say thank you to all of you who are here today. It's a testament of how much he was loved. I was thinking about this just the other day before I prayed, that Phil was the epitome of his name. While we were at the memorial in Florida, it was said that, Pastor Paul, gave a few indicators about his love and all of that. And I said to him, you left out one. His name is Philip. And Philip, phileo in the Greek is love. And so he was actually named aptly of a man who loves and was greatly loved. And so I counted a privilege to walk in his great big shoes and to look out at you and see how he's touched your life. And we were certainly touched. So I want to pray at this time, and like Michael said, just welcome the Lord's presence here as we know that it already is. Let's pray. Father, thank you. Thank you for the gift of love, the gift of Phil. Thank you, Lord, for the years that you lent him to us, the 72 years of his life. Thank you, Lord, for so pressing him and impressing him and pressuring him into your call, your service, because lives have been changed because of it. My life has been changed because of it. Thank you, Lord God, for Norma and for the gift of love that she was to him. Thank you for his dear family, his son, his daughter, his grandchildren, and brother, sister, all the family that's here. We ask, God, that during this time of mourning and celebration, Lord, that your presence would be evident, rich, and full. And we give you thanks for that, God. We praise you for that. We ask this blessing on this time together in Jesus' name. Amen.
At this time, if you're able, I'm going to ask that you stand. And we're going to sing two songs that my dad requested. One, Blessed Assurance, Jesus is Mine. And then secondly, It Is Well. Of course, you need to sing out.
Washed in his blood.
sight. Angels descending, bring from above echoes of mercy, whispers of love. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. There's one more verse. Perfect submission, all is at rest. I and my Savior am happy and blessed, watching and waiting, looking above, filled with His goodness, lost in His love. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, Thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul, with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul. My sin, O loveless of His glorious thought, my sin not in part, but the whole is nailed to the cross, and Thy merits no more. Praise the Lord, praise the Lord, oh my soul. It is well with my soul, with my soul. It is well with my soul. And haste the day when my faith shall be sight. At this time, we're going to ask one of my dad's accountability partners and one of his friends who is always so kind in allowing my dad and Norma to stay with them, Pastor Herb Flint, to come and just to read some scriptures.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. You know, the disciples one day spoke to Jesus and said, Jesus, would you show us the Father? And he said, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. If you'd see my Father, as a son, I am the spitting image of my dad. I stand here with my arm around Michael this afternoon because if you've seen this son, you've seen his father. Praise the Lord. Bless you, Michael. Thank you. It's an honor to be here with the hot mic. I'm honored to be here this afternoon. I'm not happy to be here, but I'm honored to be here. And to the Mortensen family, my deep heartfelt love and condolences, and to the Hollingsworth family also, and to friends, and so many familiar faces that are sitting here today. I just thought of this. I'll get to reading the scripture if you'll just give me a moment. I just want to see. Thank you very much. I appreciate you indulging me. I had one thought this afternoon as I was remembering times well spent with Phil Mortensen. Whether it was at Love Church or it was at Holland, Michigan, in prayer together, or hosting him in our home. There were those times that we laughed together so hard till we cried. And we cried so hard with each other till we laughed. And today we remember a life well lived in a man who loved his God, loved his family, and he loved the lost. Reading from the scriptures today, based on a question, Jesus said to him, you shall love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all your soul, with all of your mind. This is the first and great commandment. The second is like it, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. In the Gospel of John, Jesus said, no greater commandment could I give you, but that you love one another. And by this will all men know that you are my disciples. And though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but not have love, I have become sounding brass, or a clanging cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains, but have not love, I'm nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, but have not love, it profits me nothing. Why? Well, because love suffers long and is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not parade itself, is not puffed up, does not behave rudely, and does not seek its own, is not provoked. It thinks no evil, does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. Love never fails. By this we know love. He laid down his life for us, and we also ought to lay down our lives for the brethren. But whoever has this world's goods and sees his brother in need and shuts up his heart from him, how does the love of God abide in him? My little children, love us not in word or in tongue, but in deed and in truth. And lastly, then the king will say to those on his right hand, "Come, you blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of this world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me." And on a personal note, at a time when I felt orphaned, Phil Mortensen loved me. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing and acceptable to you, O God, both now and forevermore. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Herb. This time we're going to have a time of reflection. We're going to have various family members come and give tributes to my dad. We're just going to welcome them to come and to come right after each other. First will be my dad's one and only brother, biological brother that is. Many of you would hear my dad call you brother. He even called my mom brother. But at this time, I'm going to ask Dr. David Mortensen to come, to be followed by my Aunt Mary Mortensen, and then after that, we're going to have Jim Hollingsworth, and then we'll have Andre and Andrea, then we'll have Ashlyn come for our family. So at this time, my uncle, Dr. David Mortensen.
We're here to celebrate the life of my brother and to grieve what has lost. I'm sorry. He was my only brother. We were united from the get-go. I was his protector. I was tough and hard. He was soft and warm. We were infinitely united, but we were separated in finite matters. There was a tension between us. His commitment to religion, my commitment to science. But we had the good sense not to let these issues come between us. He said once, "We're not going to confront controversy. It doesn't matter. It won't do any good." Towards the end of his life, I visited him in Fort Wayne on the second floor of a little tiny house. And I decided that the scientific views of love and the religious views of love were not incompatible. So I told him, as a social scientist, what us university professors have learned. You can't put love in a test tube. There have been hundreds of studies. And here's what we've learned. It's what we say. It's what we express to each other that matters. Here's how you measure love. Love attracts what hate repels. Love brings us together. Hate drives us apart. Here's how you measure hate. When we express to each other negative thoughts, feelings, and actions, we repel. Dislike is a weak measure of displeasure, and hatred is a strong measure. Here's how you keep track. Every time you talk, you ask yourself, was I angry? There are two kinds of anger. One is episodic anger. Someone cut us off this morning. I was angry, how dare you cut us off? But that kind of anger is normal. It's related to frustration. You let the person pass and you go on about your business. But if you're in a state of road rage and you get angry all the time at the people who cut you off, then anger is no longer episodic. It's chronic. And you know what happens when we express chronic anger to each other? We generate fear. I'm afraid of your chronic anger. I'm not afraid of your episodic anger. And anger and fear create sadness. Anger is primarily related to frustration. Fear is related to threat. And sadness is a function of the number of times we have generated chronic anger and fear. The two greatest forms of mental illness are anxiety and depression. Anxiety is an expression of unrelieved frustration, and depression is a symptom of unrelieved fear. When you take the fear and the sadness and the anger out of your vocabulary, hate goes down the drain. And here's how you replace a little bit of hate with a whole lot of love. In science, the scientific view of love is this. You count the number of times that expressions of love are expansive. They generate care and concern. You know I love you not when I tell you I love you. You know I love you when I show care and concern for your welfare and your well-being. Even though it doesn't benefit me, it's a gift without strings attached. And here's the miraculous part. Love, care, and concern is expansive. It generates residual benefits, joy, and happiness. And love, care, concern, joy, and happiness generate interest and excitement. Love is not soap opera love. It's not weak tea, folks. It's strong, it's vibrant, it's resilient. And it covers us up. And it gives us an opportunity to recover from our grief. Phil and most of you have lost loved ones. They want you to grieve. Because if you can't grieve, you postpone the wounds. And the longer you postpone the wounds, the longer time it takes to heal. And our lost loved ones want us to heal so we can renew our commitment to one another. One short story. Phil said to me quietly, I don't agree with your scientific view of love. Well, what is it, little brother? He said something very eloquent. He said, hate and love are not opposites. The opposite of love is indifference. Wow. He said, if I hate you, I at least acknowledge your presence. But if I'm indifferent, you're nothing. You don't exist. Not bad for a preacher's kid. You know what I think? I think we're both right. I think that hate is the enemy of love. I think it takes a whole lot of love to get over hate. I also think that indifference is an enemy of love. And my sweet brother was never, ever indifferent. Now, I'm sorry, but I have to say one more thing. I've spent 4 years studying earthly communication. And you know what? It's never perfect. There's always crap that gets in the way. All the stuff going on inside my head. People aren't infallible. Message sent is never message received. It's always imperfect and noisy, and there's mix up in the channel, and all our electronic devices, they don't make it better. But here's what happens when we grieve. We recover, and the healing begins. The healing begins. And when my grief is over, I'm going to get real quiet and silent and transparent. And I will feel the restoration of Phil in my life. It may be before I go to sleep. It may be when I'm working out. I'm a competitive runner. No one beats me in running. And he's going to goad me on. It may be when I hear the cardinals sing in the backyard that he will make his presence felt. And I better go. Hey man, I've been waiting for you a long time. Let's talk about stuff. What should we talk about? Well, let's talk about Soupy Sales, okay? We grew up with Soupy Sales. WXYZ in Detroit at noon. White Fang, Black Tooth, and the highlight of the day on that little black and white TV set was when puppets threw a pie in Soupy's face. The last time I was with Phil, he got out a CD with Soupy Sales, and we watched it. You can go to Google and get Soupy Sales back. And you know what? I can still do the Soupy Shuffle.
Yes.
Okay, and the second thing we're going to talk about is sports. He was an avid fan of the University of Michigan, the Wolverines, and I'm an avid fan of Wisconsin, the Gofford Badgers. Now, I'm looking forward to this communication. Because unlike everyday, noisy miscommunication, when I'm ready, when I'm prepared, when I am receptive, he will come to me, and our communication will be perfect.
The year after our mom died, I found the perfect birthday card for Phil. The card said, "Happy birthday, brother, you're the greatest." The inside said, "Mom made me send the card." A few months later in June, Phil sent a card for my birthday. And when I opened it, I saw it was the same card that I had sent him, only he had scratched through the word brother and wrote sister. I thought it was really cheap that he used the same card. But the next year I sent it back to him. And the next year he sent it back to me. And the next year I sent it back to him. And for over 25 years that card traveled between Chicago and Fort Wayne. And it became a priceless treasure. It recorded the births of our children, the deaths of those that we loved, the ups and downs of the Tigers and the Cubs, and our strong opinions of who should be in the White House. Every June I waited for that card, and I knew it would always come. Because when Phil made a commitment, he kept it. I was always so proud to have him as my brother. but I know he was everyone's brother. Just like our parents, Phil's sense of family had no boundaries. But today we're up against a big one. Death is an undeniable boundary, no matter what we believe about the afterlife. And I have one big complaint for God, and I'm sure he's big enough to hear it. That we should all be able to come back for one more conversation and one more hug. And one more, I love you. When we love someone, there's never enough time. But as much as Phil loved others, he also needed love. But he rarely asked for it. David and I want to thank you for every expression of care and affection and affirmation that you gave to Phil. We are so grateful that in his last day of life, he was with Norma and also Pastor Butts and his dear family. If a birthday was ever prophetic, it was Phil's. The fact that he was born on Valentine's Day proved to be an incredible symbol of his life. He lives on, our precious, eternal Valentine.
Let me start off by saying you don't give a microphone to a guy from the South. So if this goes a little long, it's Michael's fault. So my name is Jim Hollingsworth. I am the second child of Norma, her favorite. And my three sisters and I'm sorry, my two brothers, my sister and I, have a little bit of a different view than some of the opinions that have been shared here today. So we look at, it's a little bit more of the, from the outside looking in. So let me explain. We have to go back to the beginning to kind of understand, right? My mother, I received a call from my mother one day and she said, Jim, I met a man on eharmony.com. He's the pastor of Love Church in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and is getting serious. Now, as you could imagine, you know, I had pictures of this Phil with long hair, Volkswagen van, flowers painted on the side, saying, groovy man, right? And I said, Mom, what do you know of Love Church? If I go there, do I need to bring my own tambourine? Maybe my own snake? She said, I don't think so. Think so? Maybe you should find out. So, the normal disapproving siblings of a parent finding a second spouse was sort of a normal progression for us, as you could well imagine. She felt the Lord calling her in that direction, and who's to question the Lord when He says go, right? It says in Proverbs 3:5, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. That means when God says go, go. My mom knows that, so she went. So the first time I met Phil, I don't know if it was the first time, it might have been a time or two after, they had decided they wanted to get married. And Phil, being the man who lived his commitment to God and his spirituality, wanted to sit down with his wife's to be's sons, and he began to say, Jim, your mother and I are getting married, and we're going to be practicing abstinence. I'm like, I am not listening. I pulled my ears out when his voice stopped talking, and he just started up again. With a giggle in his voice, right? If you know Phil, he thought that was funny. And I had a great amount of respect for the guy for what he was doing, right? Not easy, but it was more important for him to live what he believed. So let's fast forward to the wedding day. This is really our first encounter, my siblings and me, our first encounter with the Love Church. This was held down in Loganville, Georgia, and Love Church came down by the van load. It was really quite awesome. These people loved their pastor. It was very evident in how many people took the time to make a very long trip. And it was also very evident by the internet stream that was set up to stream the wedding back to Fort Wayne so that people could watch who could not make the service. I got to tell you, the people were very nice, very kind, very helpful, loving. I mean, there was a flurry of activity. Everybody, what can I do next? What can I do next? It was really quite amazing to see this church come to life. And then it came time for the wedding. Very pretty, nicely planned. My mom looked quite lovely in her dress. Phil was dapper in his suit. Then we sang a song. Yeah. It was right then that I realized what the Love Church was. Psalm 47:1 says, "Oh, clap your hands, all peoples, shout to God with the voice of joy." And I'm telling you, that was written simply because the Love Church would be in existence someday. I got to tell you, I have never heard singing as loud as I heard that day. It was, if you don't know what's coming, when it happens, it's like, somebody claps real loud and startles you, right? And it was beautiful. It was tremendous because there was so much love and joy in the hearts of these people. All they could do was sing as loud as they could to God. And we were all very impressed by it. I think I heard a few hound dogs off in the distance howling, but we were still very impressed. I can tell you that day Satan himself shook in his boots, and I'm quite certain that happened every Sunday morning when the Love Church met. So fast forward a little bit. At a later date, I had the opportunity to bring my family from Grand Rapids, Michigan, down to visit Love Church. And what we experienced was nothing short of amazing. We witnessed a congregation of pure joy, much like we had seen at the wedding. The welcome, the hugs, the handshakes, the smiles, the singing. I was right about the singing. The ministries I read about and the ones I witnessed with my own eyes. Phil showed us the auto center that is run there. It's what we witnessed was nothing short of amazing. The bus outside bringing children to the church so that they could hear the gospel. I understood why it was called Love Church. Matthew 25:40 says, "Truly I say to you, to the extent that you did it to one of these brothers of mine, even to the least of them, you did it to me." Love Church and its congregation, as witnessed by me and my family, is pure love. Lord, I thank you for the Love Church's example for the rest of us. So why all the talk about Love Church? In Matthew 22:37 through 39, Jesus responds when asked what the greatest commandment is. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest commandment. The second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. So we're here to celebrate the life of Phil Mortensen. I believe Phil lived his life with these commandments in mind. Why? First and foremost, Phil loved Jesus. I think we've heard testimony already that said as much. We witnessed it firsthand. Phil started and ended his day with Jesus. Every single day. He was not indifferent, Dr. Mortensen, because he picked up his cross on a daily basis, and he carried that love every day. And I agree with you, he was never, ever indifferent. He also treated his neighbor better than himself. I think we, in our family, certainly saw that firsthand. Phil and Fran started Love Church because of their love for people of all kind. Love Church is a direct reflection of how Phil lived his life Love your Lord with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. Phil not only taught love, he showed love, he encouraged love, he lived love. The love for God you see in the Love Church is, I believe, a result of Phil's willingness to submit and subordinate himself to a greater plan, a greater calling, to love. God took it from there. Phil's quest to love Jesus commanded, as Jesus commanded, was evident to us, certainly through the Love Church, but also in his relationship with my mother and my family. My mother, coming off of a long marriage that ended in a less than desirable way, resulted in a few years of living single. My mom's faithfulness to God and her trust in God resulted in a marriage which was an immense blessing to her. Phil loved my mom the way he loved church, the way he loved God. And for that, we are all very grateful. A couple ways he lived that love. My mom always wanted to see all 50 states. We know Phil liked to travel. What he'd do, he hopped in the car, and I could never reach my mom for about a 5-year period because they were always in the mountains somewhere or in some rural prairie off to some state somewhere. Phil took her. Do you want to see all 50 states? Phil took her. My mom wanted to see Italy and Europe. Phil took her. She has my uncles and my mom have a picture of a bust, it's a statue, that sits in a park in Sicily of their great-grandfather who was a doctor, and the town commemorated the statue to him because of his philanthropy. He treated anybody and everybody. And that is an incredible heritage to have, but it was all the way over in Italy. Phil took her. My mom wanted to retire to Florida. Phil moved her. My mom wanted to travel with Phil on his journeys to pastor conferences and to guest speak. Phil took her. My mom wanted to spend time with our Italian kids and grandkids. What did Phil do? No, he endured it. I gotta be honest, he endured it. But he endured it with grace. He did. It's not easy when my brothers and I get together and get going. He would often retire. I thought maybe take a nap or, he's a pastor. He needs to, go spend some time with God. I'm convinced he was in there praying for my mom. There's no doubt about it. Phil handled every twist, argument, and family event with the grace he showed everyone else in his life. I know that's not a surprise to anybody here, but confirmation. The man never, ever gave up. Lord, I thank you for Phil and his commitment to love. Amen. Mom, Albert Tennyson said in his famous poem, "'Tis better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all." I texted with my mom this past week, since I can now actually reach her. And, I was trying to pseudo-minister, try to be there for her, because I can only imagine the loneliness and the shock, everything she's going through. And through the exchange, she said to me, "I know how to live single. This time I get to do it with good memories." It doesn't get better than that. Cherish the blessing that you received in Phil, Mom. Philippians 1:6 says, "For I am confident of this very thing. He who has begun a good work in you will perfect it until the day of Christ Jesus." Mom, the Lord's not done with you yet. So in closing, I think everybody here knows that song, "I Can Only Imagine" by Mercy Me. It's a beautiful song. I absolutely love it. It's a song about using your mind's eye to see what it might be like in heaven. After knowing Phil, I think a rewrite of the song is in order. It would go like this. I can only imagine when that day comes, when I find myself standing in the sun. I can only imagine when all I would do is forever worship you. I can only imagine. Surrounded by your glory, what will my heart feel? Will I dance for you, Jesus, or in awe of you be still? Will I stand in your presence, or to my knees will I fall? Or will I stand next to a crazy tall guy singing at the top of his lungs and waving his hands about, I love you, Jesus, praise you, Jesus, I love you, Jesus? I can only imagine. Well, I can tell you, Phil no longer imagines.
Good afternoon. Thank all of you guys for coming. My name is Andre. I was Phil's son also. Don't look funny. I say son because Phil was more than just a father-in-law to me. I'm Mary Ann's husband. I've been Mary Ann's husband for 11 wonderful years, going on 12. Phil has been in my life for 21 years. And he's a very, very important part of my life. What I'd like to do first is a reading from Mary Ann about her dad. And it's called, excuse me, Being the Biggest Fan. My dad embodied being the biggest fan for many. A fan is defined as a person who has a strong interest or admiration for a particular person or thing. In defining my dad as this, I will add love to the definition because that is what set him apart from a regular fan. My dad was a fan of popcorn. My dad was a fan of ketchup. As we can see through Michael, he was a fan of running shoes and dress pants, even in 90-degree weather. He was a fan of telling jokes over and over again. And one of his jokes was that he only had 2 children. And that was because God only made 2 kinds and he didn't want to tempt the Lord. Dad was a fan of walking on the beach. He was a fan of head kisses. And one of my favorite things about our dad was to watch him preach or to watch him read scriptures on holidays. Because one thing about him, you could tell when it meant the most to him. And as Pastor Butts probably has seen over the years of getting to know him too, when he closes his eyes, when his tongue sticks out and he starts wagging, I used to open my eyes during the prayers just because I knew he would give me that one. I would always get to see that from him, and I just always waited to see that, and it let me know what it meant to him. It let me know how passionate he was about the word and everything that he preached about, everything that he talked to us about and tried to teach us as kids, as young adults, growing up to wanting to be a father. Not only to my children, but in my own personal work working with kids in the city and wanting to see them have a better future. He was also a fan of buying scan ducks from Mary Ann. Every year, he may not win, but he would buy them anyway. He's also a fan of the Detroit Tigers, the Detroit Pistons, Detroit Lions, and most of all, the Michigan Wolverines. And I myself, I'm so sorry, Norma, I love you to death. I myself, being a Florida State fan, Phil and I had a personal battle this past college football season because my Florida State Seminoles played Michigan in the Orange Bowl this year, which happened to be in Florida. And it stings me now that he's gone because he went to the game. And he called me about, I say, 2 weeks before, and he said that you should come. Come to the game with me. You know, come on down, I'll take care of you. And coaching, and I had other obligations going on, and I would have loved to go. I've never seen a Florida State game before in my life, and I said, I can't make it. And he was at the game, and he texted Mary Ann during the game and let her know the game wasn't going too well because Florida State was winning, but it was because our fans were terrible. The Florida State fans were the worst. So I wanted to apologize ahead of time for all of our Florida fans and our Florida natives too about that. But our dad was also a fan of taking long Saturday night drives on country roads, appearing to be going nowhere. But two things would always happen. He would always find an ice cream parlor, and they would always find their way home without a GPS. I know now he was preparing me for my career, in which now I drive through 19 counties of northeast Indiana to be a fan for stopping child abuse, and neglect, and our fatherhood endangerment program. Our goal is to reach dads in order for them to be what my dad has always been for me, their children's biggest fan, as he was my biggest fan. In my daily interactions, I strive to honor him and the example that he and my mother set for me. Just as he was my biggest fan, I was his biggest fan, and I still am. I had no clue until I was 30 that he wasn't perfect, but I was always Daddy's girl. I remember being a little girl and looking up at him with amazement. He always wore a smile. He was always kind. He was always genuine. He loved people just for who they were, and people loved him for the same reason, for who he was. I have memories of going to the library on Saturday mornings together. Stopping at Burger Dairy for a frosted brownie, which I'm sure your mom didn't know about. 3-week-long driving vacations across the U.S. in a blue station wagon. Summer Cedar Point trips with Sue and Dad. On the trip, Dad once told a kid riding next to him, "I'm not going to open my eyes till the ride is over." The kid happened to be a 6-year-old who requested it. "You need to open your eyes, mister." He was present in my life in every phase. He may not have been a fan of all the decisions I made, but regardless, he remained steadfast a fan of me. As I reflected over these last 19 days, I see all the times that he wanted to show my brother how proud he was, of him he was, and to let my brother know that Dad is proud of the man that he is today. He was proud of me and my accomplishments. He made sure he told me so. So at a time like this, I would have that to reflect on. Dad was my mom's biggest fan as well. He was proud of her also. No one could outwork my mom, he would say. He loved her so kindly through the good and bad times. He gave us a godly foundation that was grown from love. Excuse me. Dad, in turn, became a fan of everyone and everything that I became a fan of, except for the Minnesota Vikings, because he was a steadfast Detroit Lions fan. My friends growing up, and still to this day, as our families have grown, so did his heart for everyone. He was so excited to see Michael Ryan come down to Florida with the St. Francis football team, also won a national championship this year. And he made investments in the lives of everyone that mattered to us. Our son Andre's birth was the first day that I saw my dad cry. But from that moment on, Andre has always been known as Papa's boy. And for my husband, Andre, before he was my husband, and after, Dad has always believed in him with his words and his actions. He knew that one day that I would be investing in the lives of his daughter and his grandchildren. And for that reason, he became also my biggest fan. He loved my children. He often would come to see Adonis and DeAndre's athletic events throughout the years. He enjoyed the boys' sense of humor and their laughters, because it was a lot like his. They were goofy. And with DeAndre and Dad, you know, like I said, no one in this room today can tell me that he was only my father-in-law. That was my dad. One thing we were able to learn with that was love is always thicker than blood. This is the hard part. Andrea, my daughter, she always melted Papa's heart. Her Papa was amazed by her, and he questioned often how she came from myself and Marianne. But one thing he always prayed for, and he worried about her for, he worried for her heart. And he always wanted it to be protected from this cruel world and from some of the things that it has to offer. He was even a fan of our animals. He loved our animals. He would come by and they would drop ice cream on the floor for the dogs, hamburgers, or different things like that when they come in the house. Harry Winkle Ben was one. Tanner was another. Lucky, Butch, Boo, Breeze, and Lily. We'll wrap it up. Okay. And I think most important too, for everyone to know, he was one of the biggest fans, and like I said, and I think Norma's son touched on it too, with it being a difficult time for everyone. When, I believe when they united, one thing I will say about that is that is truly one of the happiest times that I've seen him. I can truly say Phil loved you. Phil was in love with you, and he was happy with you. And he also became a fan of the retired life with you in Florida. A very big fan, because he would always call and tease about the weather and let us know how much fun and good weather you guys were having there. He was a fan of this city and wanted to protect the city and wanting to see the less fortunate of the city rise up and wanted to see them have the same opportunities and the same lives that everyone else had. And that's just one of the most important things, the most respected things about him that I learned from the day that, like I said, he was brought into my life, and the days from the old Love Church bread handouts and walking around handing out bread and groceries and food and doing community service before I really understood what it meant to be doing a service for someone other than myself and how important that is. And I find myself now giving that back to the young men and young women that I teach and that I work with through sports and different avenues. And everything always somehow comes back to something that I've either learned or that I've heard from Phil. And he was a true fan of Love Church and all parts of it that have come together to make it a function that he dreamed it would be. And again, thank you, Pastor Bus, for keeping his vision along with your own and making it great and keeping it great. He was a fan of you all here today because he was a fan of the believers coming together to worship. And now, my dad is my biggest fan from heaven. In honor of my dad, the biggest fan I know, I ask everyone in the room today to look around. And if you see anyone who needs a fan in their corner, take the time to go out and to be someone else's biggest fan. Because everybody needs somebody in their corner. I thank you, and I appreciate your time.
I would like to say real quick before I read this, everybody knows Papa had his own special brand of crazy. And I'll refer to that as amazing just to be polite. My Papa was amazing. There was no room that he couldn't walk in and make everybody smile and laugh. He was full of love, laughter, and joy. I couldn't ask for anything better in a human being or a Papa that I would have. Most people wish to leave behind a legacy or something for people to remember them by. I believe Papa's legacy was being, quote, the greatest grandpa in the world. Everywhere we go, that's what he would ask me. Andre, who's the greatest grandpa in the world? And I know most of you always remember this because you've heard it at least 10 times. I would always answer that it was him, and I would usually give him a kiss on the cheek. I believe that in heaven, well, after Nana's done cussing him out, he'll continue that legacy as the greatest grandpa in the world, and now the greatest grandpa in heaven.